Okay, so today we're going to look at the macroeconomy. We've looked at the microeconomy. Now we're going to look at the economy in the big picture. And if we look at it, the economy in the very big picture, in a very simplistic way, we can see firms producing output, and then you've got the households buying that output and earning income from that production. And we've got this kind of circular flow of income and expenditure between the firms and organisations and the households. They should equal each other. So we've got the income of the households should be the same as the expenditure and the same as the output. If we look at the GDP, which is the gross domestic product, is the output, the total output produced in the country, this is equal. This is output is equal to the income and to the expenditure. If I buy, I spend €1 on a bottle of water. The bottle of water is the output, and that €1 is the income for the shop. So they should all equal each other. So from that, we can consider that we can measure GDP through the output method or the income method or the expenditure method. If it's through the output method, we must be careful not to double count, because we're counting the output. If we count a car, we don't want to count tyres and the car, because they're part of the car. With the income method, we're looking at rent, profit, wages and interest, all the income from the production. And with the expenditure method, we're looking at government spending and consumer spending and investments. But obviously, we don't want to double count either the consumer and government spending. For example, the transfer payments like unemployment benefit or pension can be counted as government spending, but not double counted as also spending of pensioners who are consumers or the unemployed. So we have to be careful there. There are other very important indicators. Let me just talk a little bit about this. GDP is the most important indicator of an economy because it shows what it's producing, and this really indicates our lifestyle, our standard of living, and how often we compare it with last year's. Maybe it's increased by 2% or gone down by 2%. Then it's a disaster, we're in a crisis. Or with other countries, we can see how we're doing compared to other countries. But that's the most important indicator for the economy. In Italian, it's PIL. But also there's gross national income that's very important. This is, GDP and the income from abroad. So maybe people own businesses or have shares in foreign companies and receive money from abroad, or own houses and receive rent from abroad, and also maybe lots of money goes abroad. For example, immigrants come here, they earn money, they send it home abroad. So that would be deducted. This is all about gross national income. We have to deduct the money going out of the country, and maybe also multinationals make profits here and then send the profits abroad. Also there's the EU, who we must pay every year to be a member, this would be deducted as money going out, so it's not part of our national income. But the European Union paid Italy 200 billion, I think, this year to help the Italian economy. This would be added to the gross national income. So that's very important. Let's talk about the income in Italy. Not what's produced here, but just the income. So we have to deduct that going out and add that coming in. So methods of measuring GDP we've done. There is also not just GDP and GNI, gross national income. These are done according to market prices and basic prices. So market prices would be after tax and subsidies and controls, and the basic prices would be before the government intervention. So these would be, these two indicators would be done both in market prices and basic prices. But in addition to GDP and GNI, you've got net domestic product and net national income. This includes also the depreciation, because when we produce in a country, we include the investment in the GDP and the GNI, but every year our capital is depreciated, and a lot of what our output or income is will have to be spent on maintaining it, on not just producing, but also maintaining the capital goods, which are the roads, the infrastructure, the factories, anything that needs to be maintained to a good level. So that would be national domestic product and national net income would include the depreciation, which would show us the ability we have to produce in the future. So, what we might consider is our GDP isn't so high when we take off the depreciation. When we take off the depreciation, then we really get an idea of what we've produced, because our assets depreciate. Now, to look at the economy as a whole in a macro sense, we could go back to this circular flow of income. Like I said before, it's a flow. We've got the output, which produces the income, and the income means we can spend on the output. And this flow goes round. This goes round, maintaining our standard of living. Now, in a closed economy, we just consider two sectors. We know there's four sectors in the economy. You've got four protagonists. You've got the households, the firms, the government, and the rest of the world. But in a closed economy, we just consider the households who receive wages, rent, interest and profit, which is the income, isn't it? And then also spend. So we've got this expenditure. And then the firms, which spend investments, wages, interest and rent, and receive profit. And we can do a diagram for a closed economy like this. You've got the households and the firms, and they provide goods and services. The firms provide goods and services, and the households provide their labour, capital and entrepreneurship and land, and that will be paid for in terms of wages, interest, profit and rent, and the households would spend their money on the goods and services. So that's a closed economy. But if we open up the economy, we need to look at leakages and injections. Leakages or withdrawals, often it's called withdrawals. And injections, there's some money which is injected into the economy and there's some money which is taken out of the economy. Withdrawals, what's taken out, for example, is savings. We often save money, we're not spending it. Or we spend on tax. It doesn't go on goods and services, it goes on tax. And or imports we buy from abroad. Normally these have letters to represent them, and the imports is M. So then we've got the injections. For example, investment can be introduced into this closed economy, and government spending. The government spends a lot of money. They can go into debt or print money or do whatever and introduce more money. And then also foreigners can spend in our economy on goods and services too. And normally that's represented by X. And so the injections and leakages added to the circular flow represent an open economy. An open economy. In an open economy we see the four sectors: the households, the firms, the government and the rest of the world. Yeah. Rest of the world, like I said, exports and imports, government spending and taxation for the governments, and then as before for the households and the firms. Here we see a diagram of the closed economy, and then it's being opened up with withdrawals in form of savings and direct taxes and indirect taxes and imports on the consumer goods and services. These are on the incomes. And then you have injections in form of exports, government spending and investment. So investment on the consumer goods and services, and exports provide the wages, and also the government spending provides wages and interests and profit and rent. Now, when the level of injections and withdrawals are the same, so we've got this calculation is the same as the injections, then it's in balance. We can say the circular flow is in balance. If, for example, on the other hand, the injections, here you've got investment, government spending or exports, if that together is more than the withdrawals, which are savings, imports and taxes, then the national income should go up, shouldn't it? Money's coming in to this closed economy, the national income will rise. If, on the other hand, the injection is less, so more money's going out, then the national income will go down, it will contract. There can be links between these injections and leakages or withdrawals. For example, if there's an increase in investment, there will be an increase in the income, because obviously people will be earned. Maybe we're spending on building a factory. People will be earning that money, that will increase income, and as they get richer, people are getting more income, they'll save more. and if they're saving more, we can use those savings for investment. They go in the bank. The banks will have more money to lend out. So we can find linkages between injections and leakages.